Have you been doing self-improvement for a while, but it hasn't been working? Maybe you've been meditating, journaling, exercising, taking cold showers in hopes that it would improve your life. In this video, I'm going to tell you why self-improvement has become completely useless to you in your life and what to do instead. And if you don't follow this advice, I'm going to tell you, you risk spinning your wheels for years on self-improvement techniques that will not improve your life whatsoever. So listen closely. So the self-help community has long hailed itself as the king of all, as the king of all solution, as the solution of all problems, at least according to itself, right? Which is a bit strange that self-help proclaims itself to be the solution to your unhappiness. You see all those self-help products, those books, those seminars are being sold, including mine, by the way. So I'm not exempt to that. I'm not the exception here. But the problem here is that self-help at a certain point hits a certain plateau. And a certain plateau in self-improvement where now you've reached a point where, you've done all the techniques and all that. You're just still unhappy and you don't know why. You've done all those things, but somehow there's still a void missing in your life. And what is that? Well, I'm going to explain it to you through the lens of developmental psychology, especially through the eyes of spiral dynamics. If you don't know what that is, I encourage you to watch my video on spiral dynamics. You can just look it up, Nameless, spiral dynamics on YouTube, and you'll find it. So the goal of this video is to give you an understanding of how to break through self-improvement plateaus through a better understanding of how to actually do self-improvement. I'm going to tell you the top reasons why you're no longer improving or why it's really hard to change and improve past a certain level. And the concepts I'm going to talk to you about are vertical versus horizontal growth, spiral dynamics in a certain way. I'm going to talk to you about how to learn how to unlearn, cult-like mentality in self-help, stagnation in self-help, and even regression and how to actually deal with it so that you can push past those plateaus. So as a word of caution, this video will be highly theoretical, but I will try to use as many examples as I can so that you can bridge the abstraction with the practicality so you can actually use it in your life. So let's get started. So now first we need to understand the difference between horizontal development and vertical development. Now in self-improvement, I've noticed recently, but since the beginning of the industry has started, that there's a sort of emphasis on horizontal development. Now, what that means is that you develop within the same level of consciousness, within the same paradigm. So for example, if let's say you take a dentist, right? They can learn more about teeth, they can learn more about medicine, even more about science, learn more about, things within their field, if you understand what I'm saying. So this is horizontal development because you are only learning within that specific field. Now, same could go with psychology. A psychology that only has to do with, positive psychology, improving yourself, even some science behind it, maybe you get into exercising. It's sort of all about the main paradigm of, I want to improve myself, as in what's been taught within the self-help community. The problem with that is that now you cannot see past the self-help community and now you feel stuck in it. Now, vertical growth has everything to do with moving to a higher level, a higher stage of development, instead of developing within a specific sphere. So for example, self-help is really stage orange of spiral dynamics. Orange being characterized with materialism, sort of competitiveness, acquisition of power, acquisition of, individuality, understanding who you are, and sort of becoming this independent, self-reliant sort of person. For vertical development, you will need to move to a higher stage. So for example, stage green, or stage yellow, or stage turquoise, which are levels where now you start seeing the world through a different way, not necessarily as a place where you constantly need to self-improve. You're starting to see the world in a more sort of open way. You're opening up to different possibilities beyond self-help. And this is sort of my experience that I've been having the last few months, the last year or two, where now I've really put self-help aside to do other things with my life, enjoy my life, learn to live in the moment. And in a strange way, that's been the most self-improving thing I've been doing without not even thinking about self-help, right? How strange is that, right? So that's something that maybe you'd experience if you allowed yourself to drift away from a certain paradigm or a way of seeing the world, and you start taking a more multi-perspectival approach to your life. Now, the self-help community, if you look into it, there seems to be this sort of strange cult-like following to it. Now, it's a bit of an exaggeration, of course. It's not a cult, obviously, but there seems to be cult-like elements maybe within certain communities, for example. I hate naming names, okay, and I hate sort of pointing out to the YouTubers, but if you just look at some of the most famous well-known YouTubers in the sort of manosphere community right now that are saying they're self-improvement, but there seems to be this sort of cult-like sort of mindset about masculinity, hustling towards your dreams, not becoming a sheep, and this sort of idea that if you're not hustling, that you're a little bitch, right? This sort of very, very juvenile way of approaching work that I think is not masculine at all. And in fact, I think it's anti-masculine. I think that it is not only that, but I think that it's truly immature, and it lacks this sort of cohesiveness and this sort of meta understanding of improvement as a whole. Now they're sort of putting you into this box of, well, the only way to improve is you hustle. The only way you improve is that you build muscle. The only way that you improve is that you acquire more money, you become financially independent, which is, for some odd reason, financial independence now is like sort of this glorified thing in self-improvement, especially because, that only comes to show that a lot of self-help at stage orange can become really problematic. Which leads me to the concept of unlearning. Unlearning. To reach a higher stage of spiral development, but not only spiral development, but personal development as a whole, you need to be unlearning the bad habits or even some of the good habits from the previous level. Now that sounds a bit strange, but for example, if in the stage orange of spiral dynamics in self-improvement, we tell you, work the fuck hard. Fucking work hard, work yourself to the bone, hustle every minute of the day, work out 6 times a week, eat clean, go get a girlfriend, go out, meet people, be masculine, be the man, at least within the manosphere, self-help sort of community. Now you have to take a step back and stop all this bullshit and tell yourself, actually, you know what? Maybe there's more to life than this bullshit, right? So then, now to get to stage green, for example, as spiral dynamics, which is the stage afterwards, then you start looking into taking a fucking step back, chilling a little bit, understanding what you're, maybe start pondering some more philosophical questions. Go deeper within yourself, explore who you are, explore your identity, whether it be cultural, political, sexual, whatever, everything that has to do with who you are, start exploring that on a deeper level. And now the shift at this point maybe would be away from the material to more of the internal. Now start becoming more ego aware, as in aware of your own ego, aware of your own personality that you project onto the world, which is, the philosophy of the mask of Nameless. The mask is my ego, and by putting it up there, I'm sort of always being aware of the ego that I'm sort of projecting onto the world. So can you see how the habit of, pushing yourself to perfection, of always hustling, never feeling good enough unless you're hustling, how that can lead to disastrous consequences to your personal growth, and how you should actually start looking into how you can zoom out and go to a higher level, right? Now that's just one example from stage orange to green. But from blue to orange, that's different. And from green to yellow, it's different. See, so watch my video on spiral dynamics if I've completely lost you, and then that will make more sense. Now, here are the top reasons why self-help is no longer working. Starting with the first one. The reason why self-help is no longer working and why it's so hard to change is because people don't want to change. People don't want to evolve. Why is that? Well, it's much easier to horizontally develop within where you are in your life than have to break everything down. To go from a certain stage to the next one, you have to do that. You have to be willing to put things into pieces almost and be ready to evolve to the next step. Now that's very hard to do for most people, and it's much easier to keep your current worldview, to keep your current paradigm and stay where you are, which is why most people won't change. For example, I have the story of one of my friends who, he had this dream of becoming famous, of making a lot of money, and having a lot of girls. That's basically, his dream. And his dream has morphed a bit over time, but it's still essentially the same. And I don't think he's ready for vertical development, and I don't think he'll get there soon because it's just easier to develop on the same line, right? So let's say if you're sad because you don't have enough money, it's easier to try to push yourself to, make more money and be better off financially, for example, than actually screw all the financial and start looking into yourself, looking deep within yourself and understanding who the fuck you are. Why do you even want to make money? And is life actually meaningful or meaningless? Is making money, will that actually lead to happiness? How about my relationship? See, all those questions that you need to ask to graduate to a higher level, most people will never do them. And it's just so shocking. Imagine a mother, okay? Imagine a mother that now she's sort of grew up in this sort of very conservative family, and now her child and her children, she expects them to be very sort of traditional, go to school, be religious and all that. And imagine she realizes that her daughter is a lesbian. Now it's going to shatter all of her beliefs about what she thought a woman should be and all of that. And now to understand her daughter being lesbian, if she's a stage blue spiral dynamics mother who's very conservative and all that, now she needs to graduate and use this sort of critical mind to understand someone's perspective as a LGBTQ, for example. And also forcing yourself to change before you are ready will just lead to more difficulties, right? Let's say a businessman who just wants to make more money and have more money and financial freedom. If you tell him, hey, you know what? Screw all of that, become a monk, start reflecting upon your life, philosophize, learn who you are existentially speaking, and learn to enjoy the present moment. If he's not ready for that, that's just not gonna work, right? Which is why it's so hard to evolve and why this businessman will be stuck at this sort of level of development at the monetary level. Unless he's ready to change and do that, then no, he's not going to do it. Of course, that's an extreme example, but just to make the point. The second reason why people have such a hard time changing and evolving from their stage of development and in self-help is because they're just not ready to change. According to Susan Cook-Gruder and Spiral Dynamics, you cannot jump or skip stages. You need to fully integrate the current stage you're in, integrate most of its lessons and all of its epiphanies and all that before you go to the next stage. And it's very rare that you will jump a stage, and I don't think it's really possible, although maybe it is, but it'll be very, very, very hard to do. So for this reason, it's more to evolve on the spiral in a more organic fashion instead of trying to jump to the next level if you are not ready. For example, you cannot learn calculus if you don't know trigonometry. You cannot learn trigonometry before you know even basic math, right? So you need to learn all these levels first. And as you can imagine, as you do trigonometry, you need to have integrated all of the basic math before, so then your trigonometry will make more sense. And for calculus, same thing, right? All the things that you learn in geometry, whatever thing, I don't know what calculus is about, I don't do math, but whatever you had to learn before algebra and all this bullshit, before you get to calculus, right? You need to learn all of this crap before you even think about doing calculus, if that makes sense. I told this story before, but there was a guy, there were at least two people that were homeless that wanted a free consultation with me, and they wanted to hire me as a life coach and all that. And I told them, listen, you don't have a job, you don't have money, you don't even have a roof over your head. You don't need to hire a life coach right now. You just need to get a job. You need to get some money. It doesn't matter, how, it doesn't really matter anything else until you have those basic things. So there are certain criteria that need to be met before you can even advance, right? Like, for example, someone who wants to become more spiritually enlightened, a lot of people that are drawn to spirituality actually have mental health problems. Maybe they have depression, anxiety, and there's this term coined by Teal Swan. I don't know if it's her who coined the term, but she says spiritual bypassing as the concept of wanting to overcome some personal or mental struggles or even escape from those struggles through spirituality, through meditation, or whatever spiritual practice that they are engaged in. And now this becomes a problem because those people haven't integrated those shadow elements or prior stages in their lives. And now they're trying to move to a higher level that's just too high for them to comprehend or grasp. So then for this reason, now they're stuck. Now, yes, okay, I'm not trying to discredit spiritual work here. If you're depressed and all that, of course, spirituality is going to help you. But be careful as to, trying to bite off more than you can chew, as they say. And the third reason why it's so hard to change, so hard to evolve if you're stuck, is because of a limited perspective. Now, the limited perspective, what I mean by that is basically you are stuck at a certain paradigm. Now, there's a way that, let's say if you don't know about developmental psychology or spiral dynamics, maybe you're stuck at stage blue, maybe you're stuck at stage orange, but literally you don't know the existence of prior or later stages in your development or even in society. So for this reason, because of your ignorance, you are unconsciously incompetent. You're so incompetent that you don't know that you're incompetent. Like you don't know what you don't know. And that's not a shot on you. I'm not, taking shots on you. I'm just saying in general, people who they don't know what's next level. They don't even know that it exists. So they get stuck there. So for example, my brother, he 100% believes that self-help is a scam and it's bullshit and it doesn't work and that it's lame. Now, I'd understand if someone would say that, maybe they have a good life and they're happy and all that. But the thing with my brother is that he's single. He's in his mid to late 30s. He doesn't have a girlfriend. I think he's been a virgin his whole life, although he's never opened about it. And he's probably mildly autistic on top of that. With this sort of mindset, being incredibly dogmatic in your own worldview, that's the problem with that, right? That limited perspective is what is holding him back from improving. Now you can take that into self-help, right? In self-help, this sort of dogmatism that positivity is key and that, let's say, video games are a waste of time and they're gonna fry your brain of dopamine receptors. Okay, fine. Well, how about you challenge that? How about you challenge the preconceived notions in self-help and start seeing for yourself instead of seeing from their limited perspective. And the next reason why it's so hard to improve and change in self-improvement is because of external and internal pressures that I call homeostasis. Now, homeostasis is this sort of biological phenomena where an organism will always try to preserve itself and its current state. So for example, if, let's say, you think of yourself as someone who's very positive, someone who's, always cheerful, always trying to be social, always improving. Now, when you are faced with the idea that maybe, hey, self-improvement isn't all that there is to life, maybe I can actually have a drink, maybe I can actually break my diet once in a while, maybe I can actually take drugs. I'm not condoning drugs, by the way, just as an example. Stuff like that, right? And then you're confronted with those ideas, but the internal pressure will push you back into, no, actually, no, I need to be doing more affirmations. I can't relax. I need to be pushing harder. I need to be hustling. And that causes a problem, see? Now, homeostasis isn't always negative. Sometimes those homeostatic forces can be for good. And in that scenario, maybe that's good because now he's not going to be doing cocaine. But at a certain point, you want to challenge those assumptions, right, and see how you can evolve from there. Not only on the individual level, but even on the collective level, the external level, this homeostatic pressure can have an impact on you, from the group. So for example, let's say if you grew up in a family that's religious, they're all going to push you into this box of being this religious person, for example. Even culture as a whole, society as a whole, the external pressure that they put on you to conform to this certain type of person that they want you to be, let's say a citizen who goes to a 9-to-5 job, gets a house, gets kids, all this bullshit, right? So then this is being thrown on you because changing means going against the external pressures and also going against the internal pressures you have within yourself. The basic self is, you're always sad and you're depressed and you don't know what to do with your life and all that. That's sort of your base self. If you're trying to evolve from that, then of course homeostasis is going to try to pull you back again. So what's the answer to all of that crap? What's the answer to, you know, being stuck at a certain stage in your life or not being able to evolve to the next stage? Well, the answer is to start developing a multi-perspectival approach to improving yourself. Understand that self-improvement is not linear. Self-improvement is not just an arrow like this. It'll be ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. And it's a constant state of learning things at your current stage, to then unlearn the things from that stage, to learn things from the new stage, to then, you know, unlearn those things, to then learn the things from the stage after that one. And to sort of give you a story about that is that, for example, when I started in self-improvement, at the beginning, I had to unlearn all of the things that I've been taught by my parents, you know, about being this sort of good person that always follows the rules and all that, and, you know, that only speak to people I know. And I had to break out of this shell, unlearn that, to learn, you know, seduction, learn how to be social. Now, when I start talking to the opposite sex or talking to people in general, I had to learn this. Now, when I want to get a girlfriend, you know, many years later, which is, you know, now, I had to unlearn all the things I learned about PUA and all this stuff, and I had to put this aside to then learn how to actually be a good boyfriend, learn how to be a good partner, and learn how to develop healthy communication skills with my girlfriend so that we can be together and be happy. And from this multi-perspectival approach, understanding that there are many stages in your life, you can start to have a more objective point of view on things and be a bit more detached. So for example, instead of seeing the hustle culture as bad, don't see it as bad. See it as something that you have to integrate, something that can be good at a certain point, but have a more balanced approach about it. Even with, let's say, having fun. Don't demonize fun as having fun is a waste of time. We have this joke within my circle of close friends, because one of my friends, he said one time, oh, having fun is a waste of time. We gotta hustle and all that. And so don't demonize fun. Fun can be good at times. Obviously, you don't want to indulge every single day and do nothing with your life and your life crumbles. But a bit of fun, you know, balance with the hustle is totally fine. Same with dieting. Don't be so dogmatic that you always have to be on point, or else like everything falls into pieces. If you slip up here and there, have some forgiveness, be okay with it. So you can see how just having a much more balanced approach is fine. Doing nothing is completely fine. You can be at a point even where you do nothing at all, and you should still be able, from a multi-perspectival approach, understand, hey, that's just another valid perspective, another valid way to live, and there's nothing wrong with it. And while you do that, while you develop this multi-perspectival approach, understand that stagnation and regression in your self-improvement journey is completely normal. So for example, you might get stuck at the sort of material level for years. Maybe even 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, that might happen, you don't know. Where all you want is girls, all you want is money, all you want is, you know, to improve your life, power and all this stuff. And maybe you never get out of this stage. There's some people who stay at a certain stage of development their whole lives, and they only develop horizontally. Now that's totally fine, right? That's totally fine. They don't need to be, and maybe they stagnate there, maybe they even regress. You know, they say in spiral development, spiral dynamics, that if in certain instances of stress and trauma, it happens that you can regress to a prior stage. Maybe that person becomes stage blue because of whatever the fuck happened. Not only that, but maybe you stay at a stage for a long time. Maybe you regress and you stay at stage blue for a while. And you go back to orange, and then maybe you have an epiphany, you go back to green. Now, I'm just going to give you a list of equally valid worldviews, in my opinion, that, you know, just to get your mind jogging, understanding that there's way more things beyond self-help and how those can actually improve your life in better ways. So, for example, you could be living your life just, you know, maybe you have a YouTube channel, you have certain hobbies, maybe you like to go out with friends, you like to party once in a while, and that's your passion. You love making YouTube videos. Yes, it doesn't make you a lot of money, or maybe it makes you a little bit, or maybe you don't even make money. It doesn't matter. But you enjoy your life. And on the side, you have this part-time job, and you don't really care about your job. It's fun. You know, there's good people at the job, but it's not something that costs you, but you just want to pay your bills with that. And the rest of your free time you spend playing video games or watching movies or anime. Now, that's a completely valid way to live your life, right? And that will be opposed to the common self-help culture that is telling you need to be hustling, following your dreams, because that person, technically wouldn't really be, putting their foot to the pedal to the metal, and putting as fast as they can in their life. No, they're taking it easy and they're not really progressing super fast. So that would be against this sort of culture there. Also against the societal culture of getting a typical 9 to 5, right? Getting a house and all of this stuff. This person is also challenging this worldview as well. So this person sort of sits in a weird in between where they just have their own way of living life. They just have their own way and they don't care about anything else. And that worldview is mine. This is my life right now. This is the life I decide to choose. Another equally valid worldview that you should adopt in your multi-perspectival approach to life is to hustle yourself to the bone. It's totally fine, by the way, if you want to be a workaholic, if you want to work yourself to the bone like Andrew Tate, work every single day of your life, 14 hours a day, and push yourself until you can't do it anymore and you crash. It's fine to do that. From time to time, you have to do that and sort of get immersed and get passionate about something. And there's nothing wrong with doing stuff like that. In fact, for me, I had to go through this phase of hustling myself to the bone to realize other things about my life, to be more grateful about other things, to also develop my work capacity and realize what I'm truly capable of. It's truly fascinating when you get into the hustle culture and become an entrepreneur and you work so goddamn fucking hard, you learn certain things about yourself that you wouldn't. And people had demonized the hustle. They should have a more open mind that some people, they actually hustle. Yes, maybe it can be a bit toxic, but realize that sometimes a bit of the toxicity and the negativity around it is necessary in order to evolve to the next stage. Maybe through self-realization that the toxicity in fact is bad, or maybe through other realizations and epiphanies. And often you need this shock, you need this chaos in your life in order to disturb your life circumstances, as they say in spiral dynamics. You need this sort of trauma or something to happen for you to get to the next level, and sometimes that's necessary. Another worldview that's completely valid, like any other worldview, is to live a traditional life, to live a religious life, or to live a life, conventional to society. So it's very common in these sort of entrepreneurship circles that we make fun of people who want to have a 9 to 5 job. We say that they're lame, or we say that it's not something that people should be doing, or it's the rat race. You're never going to be happy doing that. And I've sort of bought into this idea, this bullshit, at a certain point. And you know what? No, in fact, it's totally fine if you want to go to get a 9 to 5 job, if you don't want to have a purpose, if you don't care about having a meaning in your life, and all you want is just your wife, your kids, and you want to drink beer on the weekends, that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong that says that you shouldn't rebel because you just want to rebel, if that makes sense, right? If you want to rebel from the 9 to 5 and, just because you don't like it, that's kind of an immature sort of teenage way to go about life, where now you are doing something because you hate it instead of because you enjoy something else. Does that make sense? My guess is that for most people, actually, that's not what they want, which is why I keep challenging this notion of the 9 to 5 and following the status quo so much on my channel, because most people, that's not actually what they want. But a few people, they actually might want that. Another equally valid worldview is to not want to be masculine, or to not want to be as feminine or as masculine as your gender or as what society expects of you. It's very common in self-help circles that now, especially in the manosphere, that they teach you how to be more masculine, how to be more strong, how to be more of a man, how to be more decisive, how to, be an entrepreneur, all this crap. And it seems to me like those ideas that are being shoved onto you now are repressing other aspects of you. Maybe you're not 100% masculine, maybe you have some feminine traits, and same for women. Maybe they're not all feminine, maybe they also have some masculine traits that want to come out, but certain societal expectations now, and now with the movie Barbie, for example, they had this sort of So it's totally fine to not conform to certain gender roles, for example, if that's something that you want to explore, for example. And it seems to me that there's limitations a lot, especially within the manosphere, about that. And, that can mess up someone's identity and who they are. So in conclusion, why self-help is no longer working for you is simple. It's because you are stuck at a certain level of doing things and you need to be doing something else. Okay, maybe if one technique isn't working, maybe you are trying to do meditation, you can't meditate, then yes, okay, you need to zoom in onto that problem and fix it. But for most cases, I've realized that people who've been doing self-help for a while, it no longer works because actually they have to stop self-help for a while. That makes sense. You need to see another perspective, and that's basically it. And now my battery has just died, so I need to hurry the fuck up and talk to this camera right here and assess whether it's time for you to evolve, or maybe even go to a lower stage and revisit your shadow, revisit other things, other hobbies, other unprocessed traumas within you, so that you can evolve to the next stage. So I know this video wasn't extremely practical, but conceptually speaking, can you understand how it's important to start seeing things in a new way? That's basically, if that's all you take away from this video, then start thinking in a new way. That's it. And if you really enjoyed this video about why self-help is no longer working in your life, then check this video here about spiral dynamics. This is the most groundbreaking concept in self-help that nobody talks about, so I'll see you there.